Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the Visit the Northeast of Scotland podcast with me, your host, Jacqueline Bondenacker. In today's episode, we're meeting with Vivien Rae, who has a professional and personal passion for tourism in the northeast of Scotland. Not only does Vivien work as a marketing guru for several events and tourism-related businesses, she also dedicates a large portion of her time to volunteering on a variety of committees that put on events in the northeast. Vivien shares with us what she loves about festivals and the many opportunities we have to learn something new about our past. Keeping traditional stories and skills alive is an important part of sharing our heritage, and the chance to get together and socialise is integral too. The recent move to virtual events is a positive one, and Vivien believes in some ways it's a wonderful chance to share our heritage with the people who dream of visiting Scotland. In the last few months, people have also been travelling more in their own areas and discovering their part of Scotland and seeing what they have with a fresh perspective. Vivien, thank you very much for joining me today and being part of today's podcast. I'm looking forward to discussing some of the topics today, including some of the festivals that we have in and around Aberdeenshire and activities. Just to bring you up to speed, we've already had a few episodes on outdoor tourism and adventure tourism. We've spoken a bit about food and drink as well. That captures a lot of people's interest, but not everyone wants to go hiking up a mountain and really would like to do something a little bit different. And that's what we're going to be including in today's episode here as well. So can we just kick things off with an introduction of yourself and how you got involved in tourism and travel and hospitality?
Yes, so I got involved through volunteering with local events and festivals. I am a Portsoy Quine, as we say up here on the coast, and I started off volunteering with the Boat Festival around about 10 years ago and have since been really heavily involved with delivering the annual event in Portsoy based around the maritime heritage culture that we've got there. And I'm also involved with the Cornhill Highland Games as well, which is one of the games on the Scottish Highland Games circuit. Quite a bit of experience in terms of events and festival delivery and, the tourism side that comes from that. Since then, I've also set up my own freelance business in marketing and PR, Evoke Marketing. I started in 2016. And through that, have got involved in lots of different tourism projects, working with Visit Scotland, Visit Aberdeenshire, and lots of suppliers, if you like, to the tourism trade through hospitality and food production, tours, visitor attractions. So quite a breadth of experience, and underpinning all that, probably quite a passion for tourism and the northeast of Scotland as well.
So you're based up in Portsoy and Macduff, which is, I say, the far north of Aberdeenshire because I'm on the south. So there's quite a difference in distance between us, even though we're in the same county. What's tourism like up in your part of Scotland?
I think we're so lucky. I mean, you mentioned there the difference between the north and the south of Aberdeenshire, and obviously we've got the coastal area that we live in here, which is hugely different to Royal Deeside and the imagery and the experiences that you've got down in the south. So we have a lot of coastal walks. We've obviously got a lot of the beaches that are well used all year round, I would say. I'm a dog owner and I walk avidly on the beach regardless of hail, sun and rain and everything else. So we've got a lot of open spaces, which I think during the COVID period has been really, really beneficial for us because we've still been able to go out and walk quite a bit through woodlands and coastal areas, maintaining the social distancing, but also just enjoy what is on our doorstep and sort of rediscovering that as well. So we've got quite a lot up our way in terms of festivals, events, obviously based around the maritime culture and heritage as well. Mm-hmm. Again, quite different to Deeside and other areas of Aberdeenshire. But I think that just shows the absolute breadth and depth of what we can offer in such a small regional area, really.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of opportunity for us to get together, and I suppose festivals stems back to times of harvest times. I mean, you mentioned the Highland Games, and they do travel throughout the whole of Scotland and extensively in Aberdeenshire as well. And that is historically a really good opportunity for people to come together, to socialise, to meet and to learn and exchange information we do still like the opportunity of coming together.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, throughout Scotland, I think there are over 60 Highland Games during the year, and we're lucky enough to host quite a number of those within Aberdeenshire. Starting from May, we've got Gordon Castle at Faucheburge, just outside the Shire, right through to Cornhill and Old Meldrum in June. We've got Aboyne, Lonich and Ballater in August, and obviously the Braemar Highland Games in September. So it stretches quite far through the summer months, and it's definitely a celebration for both locals and tourists alike to come and watch the traditional Highland Games events, tossing the caber, throwing the hammer, throwing the stone as well. So obviously the pipe bands, the Highland dancing, all of these things are a big draw in terms of tourists to come and see the real Scottish tradition, if you like, where you can kind of experience the whole of the stereotypical Scottish traditions in one day. But equally, it's an important day for local residents as well, and definitely a highlight on their calendar for everybody to get together and just celebrate both past and present in terms of traditions and their local communities as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any festivals that you yourself like to go to?
I like quite a mix. So obviously I like the local ones, obviously like the ones that I've been involved in as well. I think for me it's about the atmosphere. It's about the mix that the festivals bring for the northeast of Scotland. So we get a real true mix of music, of stories, of history, hands-on activities. We get a real, obviously, showcase of the local produce that we've got, which is wide across Aberdeenshire, from the land, from the sea, especially on our coast, the seafood and the fish, and also the whiskey and the growing craft beer and gin that's appearing across the region. So I think it's just the real atmosphere and the real celebration of a festival for me that really I enjoy, and also the new experiences. You know, we've got festivals throughout, including the Spectra Festival. We've got New Art in Aberdeen. So I think it's about trying something that you maybe haven't tried before, or going back to something which is completely different year on year, because there's just such a showcase of new and exciting things that are happening.
Mm-hmm. I suppose the challenge this year, I mean, last year everything was cancelled for obvious reasons, and I think the challenge this year is that some of the festivals are now going online and virtual, such as Granite Noir, which is the crime and mystery writers event that happens in February, which was traditionally like a long weekend where you could go to several venues within Aberdeenshire and hear talks from authors who write in and around Scotland, stories in and around Scotland. A lot of that's moving virtual now, which is great. And hopefully some of the others, like the gin and whiskey festivals, will be able to move into a virtual realm as well. Can you see a trend for that this year?
I think that probably, given we're now in February and we still are under lockdown restrictions and things, that this summer we would like to think we will start to get back some normality in our lives that we're used to. But I think that the festivals and large gatherings, we might just need to be a little bit patient and wait into 2022 before we can all actually be on the ground and enjoy the festivals as we are used to. But I definitely think with the virtual festivals, there's scope for getting involved, and people have been really innovative over the last year in how they've delivered that. So some of the whiskey and gin festivals, for example, they're actually doing deliveries to your house. So you then tune in and you can be spoken through the different elements of the produce and how to mix them, how to taste them, and how to enjoy them. So I think that it's been quite impressive, really, some of the producers and how they've taken that innovation and adapted to the world that we're living in at the moment. But I do think that once we come through the COVID situation, through out of lockdown, there will be a real hankering to get back to festivals as we know them and meet with people face to face. I think we're quite au fait with dealing with people now online, which is super, but we would really like to get back to that face-to-face conversations and the spontaneity that festivals and that will allow us to enjoy again. So let's keep everything crossed for 2022 and getting back to some normality as we know it.
Absolutely. It'll be strange. It's almost like relearning our social skills in some respect, just like it was in learning how to do Zoom meetings in a professional way. Now we're having to go back to, how do we meet face to face again?
Absolutely. And trying to lose the hesitancy that we've got around, personal bubbles and the restrictions that social distancing has taught us over the last year. Yeah. So But I think that as well, the period that we've been through in terms of the COVID lockdown has really encouraged people to get out and explore their own doorstep and explore Scotland as a whole as well. I have so many people who are sun seekers, and every opportunity when holidays come, they head off for the sunshine. But they've been off and doing outdoor camping, camper vanning, travelling around, last summer. And how many of them have really, really enjoyed it and really experienced what there is in Scotland that they just didn't know about, or they've only really experienced in pictures before. So I think we've become the real tourists this past year of our own country, and now we can sell the story and be brand ambassadors for the North East and Scotland as a whole, hopefully in the years to come.
Absolutely. And it's really been helpful that Visit Aberdeenshire especially has done the Revisit or Rediscover Aberdeenshire campaigns, which have highlighted all the things that are available and the trends for staycationing or using self-catering accommodation and going and exploring independently within Scotland, be able to go back and rediscover some of the things that we've lost touch with and we've forgotten that we actually had.
I think maybe going back to some of the festivals that we spoke about, just to touch on, we spoke about how they've grown over the years and how they've adapted and maybe started off as small gatherings, and we now invite them in an international tourism platform to open up our season for tourism. But we mentioned the Highland Games, we mentioned some of the cultural events that we've got. I think we can probably take that down to the even smaller events and festivals that we offer. So we've got quite a lot of folk music festivals, for example. We've got the Hall in Portsoy in early June. We've got the Stonehaven Folk Festival as well. And again, all of that for me just keeps alive the traditions and the cultures and the heritage of the Northeast. It's all about singing of the songs of old, the fishwives that they would have sung, about the country ballads, about the agricultural ballads. And it just kind of keeps that going for me through the generations and allows people to enjoy them, but just keeps them alive, really. And then we've also got all of the newer festivals and events, if you like. So we've got things that have come about, like we mentioned, Tech Fest and Spectra and the Science Festival in Aberdeen. So I think that adaptation and that movement with the times is as important as looking back to the traditional festivals and how they've adapted to the new modern world that we live in. But it's amazing for me, the attraction that they've got. It doesn't matter what the element of the festival is. I think the attraction is the atmosphere and the coming together of people to celebrate whatever that topic or theme might be. And it's a really important part for me in terms of tourism to attract people to do that and engage the local communities to do it as well.
It is. I attended Across the Grain last autumn, which is a festival that was run in Stonehaven, but it was online last year. And it's all about promoting the Doric language and the local dialects from north and south of Aberdeenshire and keeping that alive and reminding people what local language sounds like, because we're pretty good in keeping some words within our everyday conversation. And I think it depends on whether you're in Aberdeen City or Shire or what part of the Shire you're in, how much of the local dialect is still in use. And I know the further north you get, the more you find it in everyday conversation. And the further south you get, it loses a little bit. So it's nice to be able to hear the slightly different tongues as well from different parts of Aberdeenshire.
It must be quite a struggle for some of our international visitors that come and are used to speaking or have learned, the academic English language, and then they come up, especially as you say, to the northeast and on our fishing coasts and villages, where it is a very different language altogether that we talk up here. So yeah, it must prove quite a challenge for them, but an important part of our culture and history as well, and as important as continue with the Gaelic language and any other. That's just what we use every day, and it's definitely interesting, I would say, for them to come along and hear it.
It is. And the only way, we keep coming back to being social, the only way to appreciate those differences is when we can be together. We can actually find a lot more commonality when we are closer together, and you can pick up and recognize things a lot more easily.
I think next year in 2022 will present a good opportunity for us with Visit Scotland's Year of Scotland Stories. And I think that hopefully there will be a lot of projects will come out of that will focus around the language and the dialect and sharing of the history and the traditions and the culture of Scotland. I can see a lot of exciting projects coming out of that in terms of tourism next year for our various different groups and communities that we've got in Aberdeenshire to really explore and showcase what we've got on offer. So I think that will be a really interesting year to tap into next year.
Indeed, that will be really good next year to be able to demonstrate, some of the skills and some of the talents and some of the uniqueness of the area.
Yeah, and equally those crafts are, the ultimate showcase at a lot of the festivals that we host in Aberdeenshire as well, through looking at, from handicrafts. So especially along the maritime coast, we look at traditional net making, we look at basket weaving, leather goods, barrel making, obviously, which is still kept up to date in terms of the whisky trade. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of different activities that are maybe either have sort of moved on and when technology has taken over in some ways, but some of them are equally as important, like the whisky barrels, which is such a huge part of our Scottish economy and tourist appeal. So it's really good, I guess, for tourists to be able to come in along and experience that as well and see it firsthand and see how all of these things, and equally so for locals, because there's probably quite a lot as the generations move along that some of these tools and different ways of doing things will be completely alien and foreign to them because technology has taken over and they're done in a very different way now. So again, it just kind of keeps all of those things alive and real for us, doesn't it? And get into the experience, maybe even try them at some of the festivals as well. I certainly know with the Portside Boat Festival, you can get hands on there and try some of the different experiences and walking and sail making and different things. So I think that just that experiential tourism experiences are definitely a highlight for many.
Well, I, for one, can't wait until things do start to relax and, we may never get back to the festivals like we had them, but that's okay. We find a new way. Like, it'll just be wonderful to experience those things again in person and first-hand experience, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So hopefully next year will be the year. And in the meantime, we can still keep ourselves going by attending a lot of the virtual events that we can find in and around. What I'll do as well with each podcast is I write a blog post that goes alongside it. So any of the virtual events that we do come across and any of the festivals that we know about, we'll put onto this blog post as well. So anyone listening can go to that and potentially sign up for Granite War, because that can be attended from anywhere in the world. And it's great just to hear about some of the Scottish authors that we have as well. One of the things we spoke about earlier is there's actually quite a lot of filming takes place in and around Aberdeenshire that we may not even realize are actually taking place. So sometimes we hear about movies that are supposed to be set in Scotland but are actually filmed somewhere completely different. It's hard to differentiate between what is fake Scotland and what is real Scotland. And one of the few that I am familiar with is the Whiskey Galore film, both the original and the remake, which was, I think, 2018. Something like
16, that. I think, 2016.
I watched that not that long ago, and it was fabulous. Recognizing places, it's like I've been there. I know exactly where that is. So it's really nice to be able to see in this Whiskey Galore film, especially, that everything is local and everything is filmed in the right places. So, are you aware of any other films that have been done in the Northeast?
Well, you mentioned Whiskey Galore, and that obviously was filmed in Portsoy and Pennon, and they seem to be two very popular destinations for filmmakers. We're currently setting up in Portsoy just now for Peaky Blinders to start filming Series 6, which is rather exciting in terms of the prospect of some of the actors and cast that may be travelling up to Portsoy and put Portsoy on the map that way. If we get anything like the outcome that we did from Whiskey Galore in terms of putting Portsoy on the map and, attracting tourism with the Peaky Blinders film, and then I think that is a huge benefit for Portsoy and the Northeast. Pennon, of course, another location, and numerous others as well. I believe The Queen with Helen Mirren was filmed round about Cluny Castle and Castle Fraser in Aberdeenshire as well. Of course, we've got Slains Castle, which is hugely popular, was the inspiration apparently for Bram Stoker's Dracula, and has been used as a filming location as well. One that I didn't know about until I was doing a little bit of research on this was Mar Lodge in Deeside apparently was the location for The Dark Knight Rises, when Tom Hardy's plane took off in the opening scene of that film. So there are, as you say, there are quite a lot of different locations that we don't recognise or realise that they've been used for that. Mm-hmm. But looking at our castles trail as well, we've got Craigievar Castle, which again is supposed to be the inspiration behind Disney's Pink Castle. So I think that just goes to show the history and the heritage that we've got in this area that has become such an inspiration for stories and films throughout the years.
Mm-hmm. I know, it's fascinating. You'll see people who want to emulate that image from the Bond film where M and James Bond are standing at the head of the valley of the Glen, with the Glen spreading out behind them. We need to come up with a couple of those types of images for the northeast of Scotland as well. And we can go chasing, the famous scenes in films.
I think it's so popular though with, tourists coming to an area. Obviously Outlander in the Highlands has been huge for them as well. And it just really puts places on the map. And I think that Aberdeenshire, we've got such stunning scenery here that we take for granted when we're in normal life and travelling to work and travelling to shop and to the cinema and different things. And it all passes us by. But I think that having been in lockdown, it's really opened our eyes once we've been allowed to go back out and explore a bit. You sort of start to look at things in a very different light and experience them very differently. So we can start to appreciate what tourists see when they come to Scotland and come to the northeast and see it through their eyes, and really appreciate the differences and the beauty that we've got here.
Definitely, yes. One of the things with local tourism as well is because we're a bit limited in some of the places we can go in terms of attractions, more of us are now hitting the road and going exploring within our own area and doing some of the popular driving routes. The North Coast 500, for example, is really popular, which covers a lot of the west coast and the central highlands of Scotland. But in this area, we have our own Northeast 250 as well, which covers part of the route that you would call home, I suppose, the coastal route in the north. Have you seen any influx of people because of the Northeast 250?
Well, I worked a little bit on the Northeast 250 project, so was really interested in the development of that. And again, I think it just goes to show within the 250 miles what a difference you can experience throughout Aberdeenshire, from right along the coast to the mountains and the rivers of Royal Deeside, and then depending on the season you get a very different experience as well. So anything from the summer right through to the winter snow roads and the snow on the hilltops and things is very different even for locals to see it through the four seasons. So I think that, yes, I think people locally are definitely travelling that route to experience it more. But it's also just a good map, if you like, for visitors coming just to follow. And if they wander off the path at any point to explore something, then that's ideal. That's exactly, what the purpose of it is. But I think that we can just sort of sell that as a starting point for people to come and try and explore the Northeast and just experience all the different attractions and scenery and everything that we've got that we can offer. So I would definitely say that there has been an uptake in terms of travel, the Northeast, as a result of promoting the Northeast 250. And then we've got the additional, like the snow roads route as well that we can explore. So it's just another tool, if you like, in our toolkit in terms of tourism professionals to be able to sell the Northeast and what we have to offer here. So I think it's excellent.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience listening to the podcast today that we haven't covered?
No, I don't think so. I think you've made a very good point that anyone in the world, anywhere, can join our virtual festivals and events. So I think that there's real opportunity there for us as well to allow that to happen. We may have people that are in Canada, America, Australia that are dreaming and longing for the day they can visit Scotland, but they can actually now engage with our virtual events and festivals and get a little bit of the flavour of what they can look forward to when they come and visit us. So really good point there, and hopefully everybody will tune in and get involved.
Well, thanks very much, Vivien, for speaking to us today and for sharing your information and knowledge about all of the great things happening in the Northeast, some of the things that are available in terms of filming locations and driving routes and things that we as locals can go and do and explore. And then hopefully we can share that with people from coming in from international locations as well. So thank you for sharing with us, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you very much for inviting me along. I've really enjoyed it.